Welcome to The Explainer, everyone. Today, we're tackling an idea that literally touches every single one of us. It's something we've all felt, but we almost never stop to actually examine. I mean, we live in this deeply digital world, right? It's a place where noise is just constant and oversharing has basically become the baseline standard for human existence. But what happens when we actually challenge that default setting? Today, we're looking at the profound, almost hidden power of silence and privacy. We're going to examine our daily digital habits, question some massive societal assumptions, and uncover exactly why taking a step back from the digital microphone might just be your ultimate superpower.
Okay, let's dive into this by confronting a little bias we probably all share. Be honest with yourself for a second. When you realize someone isn't constantly posting, tweeting, or broadcasting their daily updates, what immediately pops into your head? For most of us, our automatic assumption is that something must be wrong. We kind of think, oh, maybe they're lonely, or their life must be incredibly boring if they have absolutely nothing interesting to share. We have been so conditioned to believe that if you aren't broadcasting your life, you aren't truly living it. But what if the exact opposite is true?
And that brings us to a pretty radical counter idea. What if a lack of an online presence isn't a sign of an empty life, but actually a sign of absolute fullness? Silence is not a weakness. It represents a state of deep, unshakable peace. You see, some people are profoundly quiet simply because they have absolutely no need for the external noise of the world to prove their worth. They don't need a digital megaphone to validate their existence. Their quietness isn't an absence of life, it's actually the presence of an incredibly strong, self-assured foundation.
We're essentially looking at two totally different mindsets here. On one side, you have the endless pursuit of worldly validation. When you share every single moment online, you're doing something incredibly risky without even realizing it. You are basically handing over the remote control of your happiness to complete strangers. You're letting their reactions, or lack thereof, dictate your mood for the entire day. But on the flip side, we see a totally different approach. By keeping things private, you're protecting your inner world. Your confidence is no longer tied to external approval, but it's rooted deeply in internal clarity and unshakable self-worth.
Let's unpack the actual cost of what we can call our new currency. Because in today's digital economy, likes, comments, and follower counts, they have become literal currency, and people trade their privacy every single day to acquire it. But look at the toll it takes. We start sharing every intimate moment, constantly chasing that dopamine hit of a new notification, treating the pull to refresh on our phones like a digital slot machine. We become entirely dependent on seeking external validation just to feel good about ourselves. And the absolute most dangerous part, we end up handing over our happiness to an unpredictable, unforgiving public audience. That is a massively high price to pay.
So the crucial point is how we actually redefine this concept. People so often mistake privacy for fear or insecurity. They assume someone who's quiet is just hiding. But true privacy, that is actually a form of deep intelligence. It's a conscious, deliberate choice to filter your life. It's having the wisdom to know exactly which parts of your life you want to display in the shop window and which precious parts you want to lock away as a treasure, just for yourself and your closest loved ones. It is not running away, it's taking command.
This is a psychological truth that honestly just cannot be overstated. When you constantly expose every facet of your life, you are inviting everyone else to become a co-author in your narrative. Suddenly, 100 strangers get to judge, comment on, and twist your experiences. But when you limit your exposure, you retain absolute control over your own story. You protect your emotions, your relationships, and your personal narrative from being completely manipulated by the outside world. By sharing less, you actually maintain a much firmer grip on who you are and where you're going.
Now, we've got to dismantle one of the biggest myths of our modern era, the idea that being offline automatically equals being shy, isolated, or lonely. The reality is drastically different. People who choose the quiet path are often just way too busy actually living their lives to bother curating and posting about them. They're fully immersed, completely present, and deeply satisfied in the real, tangible world. They simply don't feel the lack of virtual attention because their physical, day-to-day reality is already so incredibly rich and fulfilling.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what we're talking about. Highly self-aware people understand that personal energy is a finite and incredibly precious resource. They totally refuse to waste it on the noisy theater of public opinion. Instead, think about how they actually allocate that energy. A massive 40% goes directly into inner growth. Another 35% is poured into nurturing real, physical, authentic relationships. And the remaining 25% is dedicated to self-improvement. They are investing heavily in the things that actually move the needle, completely ignoring the hollow pursuit of internet fame.
You know, we often think that talking requires effort, and silence is just the default, easy option. But in a world that is screaming at you 24/7 to share, comment, react, and broadcast, staying quiet is actually immensely difficult. It's an absolute art form. It requires tremendous mental strength and discipline to just sit back and observe. This deliberate silence acts as a psychological shield. It protects you from the toxic trap of constant comparison, and it ensures you don't lose your true identity to the exhausting demands of the crowd.
There is a tremendous weight to this philosophy. Alive, just not showing it. I want you to just let that sink in for a moment. This isn't just a catchy phrase. It's a profound way of living. It means you are the undisputed author of your own story, and you only let the world read the pages you explicitly choose to publish. Your existence and your joy, they aren't dependent on being witnessed by strangers. You are vibrant, you are thriving, you are fully alive. You just don't feel the exhausting need to prove it to anyone else.
So what does this mindset actually look like in practice? Well, it belongs to someone fiercely focused on real improvement, rather than public approval. They want to be better tomorrow than they were today, not just more popular. They've completely rejected the currency of likes and followers. And while they might seem quiet outwardly, their internal world is this bustling hub of thought and creativity. When a beautiful moment happens, they live it through their own eyes, fully present, rather than experiencing the whole thing through the tiny lens of a smartphone camera.
Because of everything we've just discussed, valuing privacy in this hyper-connected era is not a flaw. Actually, scratch that. It's not just not a flaw. It is in fact one of the greatest and rarest strengths a person can possess today. This ability to step back, to remain unswayed by public opinion, and to fiercely protect one's energy is exactly what separates true leaders from the rest of the pack. While the crowd is busy shouting for attention, the leaders are quietly observing, thinking, and building. Their power comes from their grounded private foundation.
But make no mistake, this is not an easy journey. The path of the silent worker absolutely comes with a price. In the early days, you're going to face criticism and misunderstanding. People will constantly wonder why you're so disconnected. And for years, you might find yourself walking alone, deliberately stepping away from the comforting noise of the crowd. It can definitely feel isolating. But that final phase, that is a lifetime of impact. By working in silence, you eventually reach your goals in a way that completely shocks the world. Your results will speak way louder than any social media post ever could.
So as we wrap up our explainer today, I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Take a really hard look at your own life and ask yourself, how much of your story does the world really deserve to know? Remember that retaining some mystery, keeping your absolute best treasures locked away, and focusing on real-world growth isn't a weakness. It's the ultimate form of self-control. I challenge you to start reclaiming your power today. Try turning down the external noise and just watch how your silence transforms into an absolutely unstoppable strength. Thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you on the next one.